What we're going to do today is we're going to look at all of the principles that I think are important when we talk about grammar in the homeschool and in writing in general. And then at the very end of the scope, I have a link that will take you to a place where you can download 5 practical tips for incorporating grammar into your life, what I call 5 real-life grammar tips, totally free. So if you stick around to the end, you'll get the link and then you'll get to download those. Now, don't worry if for some reason you have to leave because the baby's crying or you have soccer practice or a dental appointment. This particular Periscope will stay on replay view for 24 hours. You can come back and rewatch it and get the link at the end. Okay? So it's great to have you here today. Thanks, everyone. Oh my goodness, we're almost at 100. Very fun. Okay, so we're starting out with, I did not say the link, Brandy. I'm saving it for the end. Okay? So hang in there. We're going to do this conversation first, then we'll give you the tips that you can print out and use for yourself. So invite your followers just in case they might benefit from that as well. I have a little show and tell going on too with some of my favorite products, so that will help you have some idea of how to tackle this beast called grammar. Thanks for inviting your followers. Really, I truly appreciate it. And all the beautiful fluttering hearts. It's very fun. This lipstick is very red. Okay. All right, here we go. So, what is it about grammar? Everybody feels like they need to teach it. Over and over, we are told that grammar instruction is the most effective way to grow good writers. We hear it from, I'm just adjusting this, there we go. We hear it from all kinds of writing programs. It's as though we should be teaching grammar every year of the life of the child. Somehow, a child won't become a proficient writer if they haven't mastered all the rules of punctuation, spelling, and proper syntax. Is that true? Is that true? Let's start right there. What is it about proper grammar that is supposed to inform and improve writing? Let's have you throw out some ideas. What are the things you've heard about why grammar is so critical to good writing? And you can type comments at the bottom of your screen, and they sometimes take a minute for them to get to me, even though you might be seeing them already. But I promise I'll read them. Good. So some people say clarity and clear communication. Exactly. That's one of the main ones. What else? It creates powerful writing. We want to look at why. Why would it? Makes the writing more readable. Emma was at a school where they didn't teach grammar. Someone else says sophistication of the writing. Nice. Poor grammar is distracting. What else? Anyone have some other ideas about why grammar is so essential to writing? Gives you credibility. But interspersed, we keep hearing from people who didn't learn grammar. Some people say it helps you get taken seriously. All right, these are very, very common. Grammar is the difference between feeling your nuts and feeling your nuts. I'm not sure if I know what that means. Oh, I see. It's 2 different yours. I got it. I saw it. Thanks. It's hard sometimes at the distance. I don't even remember being taught grammar in school. Some people are afraid of the judgment from public schoolers. How about Facebook? Holy Lord! You can get some really hard-nosed grammar snobs on Facebook. All right, so let's talk about this beast called grammar and the fact that some people feel really proud of being great at grammar, and then other people didn't even learn grammar, whatever that means, and yet are speaking fluent English. How is that possible? All right, so I'm going to blow your mind. Let's talk about grammar in a completely subversive way, shall we? The people who care the most about grammar are focused on accuracy. And accuracy is a construct that literally shifts from epic to epic to epic. In other words, what constitutes proper grammar in one era shifts and morphs for another era. All you have to do is read Chaucer's Canterbury Tales in the original English to recognize that changes in language are a part of the natural evolution of how native speakers know language. So what we have when we're talking about grammar is this notion of accuracy, the idea that the way sentences hang together is somehow correct when it's done one way and not correct when it comes another way. Who understands that? Who believes that? So grammar then is this notion that there's a right way and a wrong way to speak, a right way and a wrong way to write. It's this one or the other. That's right. People are saying yes. This is what they've heard. Yes, thumbs up. Right. Well, what if I submit to you a completely different understanding of grammar? What if grammar is merely the architecture of any language that creates communication in the receiver? Let me give you an example. Years ago, I listened to a pretty well-known academic named Michael Dyson. You can look him up on the internet. He's often a pundit on television talk shows, and he has been a member of many university contexts as well. He's a professor. He's an African American. And he gave a talk on rhetoric that I attended at the University of California in Riverside. And he gave, we've got someone checking in from Dubai. Thank you. He gave this riveting lecture on the power of language. When he was a child, he had been exposed to Shakespeare. He had lived kind of in a lower income area and somehow had the opportunity to hear Shakespeare. And he loved it. And he grew to memorize and worship and be interested in language. So during this long talk, and he's quite a powerful orator, he ended by reciting this gorgeous piece by Shakespeare. It just burst from him. He performed it for us. And without skipping a beat, without a pause, he transitioned from Shakespeare directly into a rap. Now, I can't remember who the rappist was that he was quoting. It might have been Tupac. I, at the time, did not know rap. So he probably said the person afterwards, and Teflon bounced off of me. But the transition was seamless. He went from Shakespeare to a modern rapper, and the audience literally did this. Like this intake of air, this gasp, because it was so unexpected. We were like, oh, look at this guy who was underprivileged, who's become this renowned professor, who's mastered Shakespeare. Oh, yes, all of us, academic white people in the audience felt so good about that. And when he switched into rap, and we could hear the cadence, and we felt the punch of the impact of the information put in language that was street language. Yes, the element of surprise. Oh, you guys are so paying attention. I love that. When it was put in street language, it was obvious instantly that this language completely communicated. It wasn't grammatically correct. It wasn't white speak. It was language bursting out of a person in a way that anyone listening could access it. It gave me this sense of boundlessness around words, this creativity, this opportunity to invent meaning through language. That was the beginning, and this is way back in like 1991. That was the beginning of me really reconsidering what it meant to have proper speech or proper grammar, and who sets those rules? Who's in charge of grammar? Who gets to decide whether something is correct or something is incorrect? Well, I'll tell you a little about that. If you ever study in the field of linguistics, you'll discover that there are multiple schools of thought about what writing and what grammar are. Somebody says that it's the academic elite who set the conventions. Actually, you know what I want to suggest? It might be in some camps, but honestly, I really think that it doesn't come from the academic elite because they love curiosity and exploding myths. That's what they're all about. So if you hang out with the linguistics department of any university, you're going to get all these discussions around constructivism and how they deconstruct the power of language and reinvest power in speech that has been formerly shunned by the community. No, I would like to submit to you that it actually just comes through pretty much ordinary school, pretty much ordinary education, the common conventions that are most accessible to us in newspapers or on television. In other words, normative speech and writing. The stuff that we're around the most, the dominant culture. That's what sets the conventions. And the more that you investigate language, the more you'll discover that these are just conventions. Things change. Grammar is not set in stone. It's the science behind how words hang together to generate meaning. So now that I've sort of introduced you to where I come from, I want you to know this. If you ever write to me in an email, I will never, ever judge your writing. It will never happen. I don't look at you and think, uh-oh, she misspelled your. What a loser. That will never happen. Because here's the thing. If you risk self-disclosure in language, and me, the receiver on the other end, can understand what you're saying, I'm interested in your content. Does it help us in the bigger world to know how to master things like punctuation and spelling and to submit to the conventions of grammar and syntax? Absolutely. It's why we teach them. But it is absolutely also not about being superior. It's not about being so good at it that you can look down your nose at other people. And lastly, I'd like to say this. If you can subvert the grammar expectations of your reader in a creative way, you will be a powerful writer. That will enhance the power of your writing. That's one of the reasons to know grammar well, so that you can explode the expectations. Accuracy, sure, we like accuracy. That's like saying, picture yourself at a gymnastics meet, and you watch all these people do back handsprings into flips. At a certain point, you're like, I've seen this. They are accurately doing the back handsprings into the flips. But who is it that wows you? It's the performer who undermines your expectations, who exceeds your expectations, who does something new and fresh. And that's partly what we're talking about when we're talking about grammar. So how does this relate to children? I've gotten all heady talking about grammar and language. When we have children learning how to write, the danger is this. We treat our own language as though it were a foreign language. Let me say that again. Some people actually talk about writing like it's a foreign language. Like, you've learned English and you know how to speak, but when you go to write, it's like starting over. It's like learning a foreign language, and that's why it's hard. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm here to say something quite different, and let's see what you think. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history now about the way it works to become a fluent native speaker in English, okay? Let me grab my little cards. They're not as decorated today because I got some hard news earlier and I had to handle that. But I'm here now. Up. We don't use that kind of language on my broadcasts, so I ban you. All right, thanks everybody. Up. Here's another one. Yeah, I blocked them. Don't worry. Occasionally people pop in and they do things that are not okay, and I will get rid of them. And if you see it, you can block them too. But they're out of my broadcast now. Okay, so let's talk first about speech. Because until we understand speech, we can't really understand grammar and writing. So here's what it is. Your brain is hardwired for speech. That means when you're born, your brain has an appetite for speech. And early on, no matter where you're born, whether the language is Tagalog, Farsi, or Mandarin Chinese, you're going to be a native speaker as long as you hang out with people who speak that language. That's what your mother is doing. She's talking to you in her heart language, what we call the native tongue, the heart language. She's doing it with the perfect accent, and she is specifically giving it to you. And so's the dad, and so's the community. And the way your children learn how to speak is like this. By ear. Native speakers learn by ear. Now, I love to share this story. This is what happened in my family. My son Noah, when he was about 11 months old, was sitting in a high chair behind me. And I was at the kitchen washing dishes at the sink. And all of a sudden I heard him say, Nana. And because I was a writer and eventually would be a writing instructor, I turned around and I said to him, Noah, you said Nana. That's part of a word. The word is banana. It's a noun, and it goes in a sentence like this. I would like a banana. And because it's a request, you need to use the oral format called etiquette. I need you to say, I would like a banana, please. Did I do that? Goodness, no! I turned around and I said, oh my gosh, my child's a genius. I got him 6 bananas. I called his father from upstairs. I made an international phone call to my mother. I wrote it in the baby book. Noah, 11 months old, said, Nana. And for the next 6 weeks, we plied him with bananas trying to make this thing happen again. Isn't that what you did? Isn't that what you did? As the months went by, he got a little better at speech. He said, at 15 months old, me want Nana. I was equally thrilled. Now he has strung together 3 words. I understood them all. Me want Nana. He wants a banana. As time moved forward, I often would give him the language he needed. I might say something like, did you mean to say, I want a banana? And then Noah would parrot right after me. I want a banana. Now, did I say to myself, oh, wait a minute, better stop speaking to him. If I give him the words, are they really his? Maybe they're just mine. He's parroting me. If I stop speaking, then the only words that will come out will be the ones that are his, and I'll know they're his because he's not copying me. Does anyone do that? Anyone? Of course we don't do that. We never doubt for a moment that if our kids copy our exact words in speech, that they are somehow violating some ethical code about speech. Yet, doesn't that happen in writing? Don't we suddenly feel like if they take my words, suddenly they're not writing their words? In speech, we are so comfortable, and here's why. Because we know categorically that they are going to be 100% fluent without an accent in our native tongue. And so we're relaxed. We're comfortable. We go ahead and talk. We coach them. We teach them, back when we had house phones, we teach them this really weird way to answer the phone. This is Noah Bogart. This is the Bogart residence, right? So they learn to speak. And by the time they're 5 years old, now Noah is yelling from the other room saying, hey, Mom, get me a banana. And that's when I say, hey, what do you say? And he says, please. Because now he is so fluent in English. He's not thinking about how to shape the words in his mouth. He's not having to figure out which words to use. He's so fluent, you can add the etiquette format, and it's easy. He can just pop the language into the format, no problem. That's speech. And that all happens from 0 to 5. Just like that. In any language in the whole world. Let's just pause for a moment and appreciate the most amazing brain that we have in our little heads rolling around. Fluency, perfect accents, 90% of the vocabulary your kid is ever going to have by 5 years old. It's pretty incredible. All right, so that's speech. So what happens with writing? How should we teach writing? And what role does grammar play in writing? Well, here's the thing. The brain isn't hardwired for writing. It is a learned skill. The skill of transcription requires more work. And I want to show you this. First of all, I meant to show you these 2 little cards here. Speech, 5 years. Speech, 5 years. Okay? So now we are dealing with writing. Oops. I'm still here. It takes 10 years. 10 years. Writing, 10 years. Think about that. If the writing life starts at age 8, which I believe it does, at 8, not at 5, because I think you need to be a good reader before you can actually be really growing as a writer. But let's just say it starts at 8. How long do you have to help your child become a writer? till he's 18, till she's 18, okay? So you've got fluent speech by 5, but you've got, yes, somebody said, if my child is speech and language impaired, would I have different expectations? Yeah. I mean, I still think by 18, that child can be fluent. But will you take a path that involves more support and help and therapy? Absolutely. Of course you will. You're going to have to offer more handholds. I like to tell the story of a friend of mine who's a PhD with dyslexia, who when working on his dissertation, dictated it, hired a secretary to type the whole thing up, works cited, inline citations, the whole 9 yards. And I always ask my students this, who wrote the dissertation? Did he or did the secretary? Does anyone know? Who gets the byline? The secretary or the dyslexic friend of mine trying to earn the PhD? He did, because writing isn't about being able to transcribe your thoughts. The only reason we teach transcription skills is to shorten the distance between thought and getting it out there. But if I were to, God forbid, chop off both your child's hands and gouge out both their eyes, they could still be writers. As long as someone else can type it up for them, the writing life lives within, and speech is adequate to get the writing life out. So why do we teach transcription? Well, as I said, it's helpful. It's a shortcut. It's easier. It's faster. It's a source of pride. And the fact that we are so busy online today, writing in every possible capacity, it matters to be able to represent yourself for yourself, to have that shortcut. So there's value in it. But I want to decenter our emphasis. I want it focused on the writer that lives inside and treat transcription the way we need to treat it, which is a tool. It's no commentary on someone's intelligence. Okay? So here's the deal. Because it takes 10 years to become proficient as a writer, we need to have some patience while we're working through this process of teaching grammar and teaching punctuation and teaching spelling. What does it mean then about an 8-year-old? How good will an 8-year-old spelling be? Anyone? How good will it be for a fluent speaker who's just learning to read and write? Okay, I'll tell you. Terrible. I will get phone calls and emails from parents who say things to me like, I have an 8-year-old, she's a horrible speller. And I always say, well, what else could she be? She's 8. There will be 8-year-olds who are amazing at spelling, but I'm trying to let you recognize that it's totally acceptable to not be good at spelling at 8. The level of experience is similar to me want Nana, okay? Taking risks, taking spelling risks. So here's what happens. Your child who is, boom, fluent in spoken language is handed a pencil once she's learned how to, make the shapes of the letters and can read a chapter book. And we say, now, take all this stuff going on in your head, this verbal complexity, funnel it down through an arm and get it on the page. And what happens? Well, the brain is trying to learn how to use the mechanics. So the little desktop up here is completely crowded with which direction does the B or D go? How high do I make the line that goes on the stem? Am I supposed to use a capital at the start of this word? Does it end with a period? I'm looking up and down and I'm thinking. Meanwhile, this huge complex thought with these really sophisticated vocabulary words are all blocked up. So what I always tell parents is there are 2 things going on, 2 ways that a child responds to this crisis, where what they think outstrips their mechanical abilities. And here's what it is. Either the child dumbs down the content to match the current skill level. And this is where you get that really lifeless and insipid writing where it says things like, I like dogs. They are fun. I have 2. Her name is Holly, right? And you think, this doesn't match what he just told me about dogs. But he's controlling the output to match his mechanics so he won't make mistakes. That's the first reaction. The second reaction is, oh, hang all the mechanics. My ideas are too compelling. I'm just going to put them out there as best I can. I'm going to take a risk and misspell everything and leave out punctuation. Those are the two. And in between that is writer's block. The kids who can't decide which of those to choose, and they suddenly just look at you helplessly or rebelliously or reluctantly or with tears, and they won't do it. Sometimes resistance shows up as boredom and apathy, just to mask all the deeper feeling of anxiety. They'll be like, I don't see why I have to write. I don't care about writing. They don't really mean that because they love to talk, and writing is just another form of talking. So we know they want to communicate, but they are protecting their ego by not thinking writing has any value. Does that make sense? So what should we do to help them? Oh, we're getting there. One of the things you can do, of course, is jot down what they say. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. We're not doing the full writing talk today. We're going to talk about grammar. So here's the thing. Because writing takes 10 years and not just 5 years, when we're talking about grammar instruction, we're thinking somehow that's going to fix this process, that they're going to go from being a speaker to a writer because they know what a noun is. And I'm here to tell you those are two completely different skills. They have nothing to do with each other. They really don't. You can analyze the language and get to know how it is structured, but it isn't going to shift the content. What's going to happen instead is your child's going to gain an appreciation for how language hangs together. I remember Charlotte Mason saying in one of the volumes, I didn't have time to look it up, that grammar instruction is more about appreciating the beauty of language. Ruth Beechick says a similar thing. It's a science. It's sort of like deconstructing a body. It doesn't help you use your body more to necessarily know how all the bones fit together. It's interesting. It's helpful. What is helpful is a working knowledge of the parts of speech, because now we can use code for what we want to do when we're working on improving the writing. We can say, I need a new adjective, or let's look for a powerful verb, something like that. So here's what I'd like to share with you today then. And we took a while to get here, but I think it's necessary. I think it's important. When we're teaching grammar, native speakers are intuitive. Remember, I said native speakers learn by ear. Their understanding of grammar is intuitive. So if you say something to them and it isn't correct for your region of the country and how you all talk, how do they know that it isn't correct? How do they know? They know by their ear, by this little guy, my very poorly drawn ear. That's right. They say to themselves, does that sound right? That's what they do. And every region, yes, it sounds wrong, exactly. And every region has some regionalisms that the native speakers treat as correct that aren't considered correct for writing. Like where I live, I've got people who say things like, well, let's see if I can do it. It's really hard for me because I don't do this one. She don't go to the store on Sunday. She goes on Tuesday. She don't go. They say that here. People use have went instead of have gone all the time around Cincinnati. And you know what? Perfectly clear communication. No reason for me to correct anyone when they do that. But when we're writing in an academic context, we have a set of standards that have been developed for ease of communication and for the sake of clarity. And that's what we're training our kids for. So one of the things, fixing to go shopping, could meet you at the store. Yes, all of those. So one of the things, though, that we want to do first is to honor the fluency of our speaking children and even the regionalisms that are considered acceptable where we live. There's no reason to denigrate those. It's like when they text and when they're on Facebook, all of these kids are just multilingual now. Never shame your child for texting shorthand. Who wants to use full words when you're using your thumbs? It's perfectly acceptable to be multilingual in English. There's the texting way, the Facebook way, the online gaming way. There's the spoken way, the academic writing way, the story way, the personal journal way. These are all valid representations of English with different contexts And your kids are more multilingual in English today than any generation in the history of the world. More children are writing today than in the history of the world. Just take that in. They are getting more practice with self-expression in a public sector than any generation in the history of the world. It's pretty impressive. And they're doing it in English, regardless of how good their punctuation and spelling is. I mean, for me, that's kind of phenomenal and fantastic. No longer is there this gateway, these gatekeepers who prevent us from expressing ourselves just because we didn't get the right education. It's so democratizing, so incredibly fabulous. All right, so how do second language learners learn grammar and learn to speak a second language? Do they do it by ear? They do not. They do it by rule. If you're learning English as a second language, you can't rely on your ear because you didn't grow up with it. Now, there are people who grow up bilingual. I have cousins whose mom is American and their dad is Italian. And the parents only spoke, my aunt only spoke English and my uncle only spoke Italian, and those kids are perfectly bilingual. But most of us learn a second language not that way. We learn it after we're already firmly established in our first language. So when we go to learn it, we have to learn the rules. We can't make a sentence without asking ourselves, how do I conjugate this verb? Which place do I put the adjective in? Before the noun or after the noun? These are the questions that we ask when we're learning a second language. Whereas native speakers are intuitive about language, their own, second language learners have to learn the language. They have to study and learn it. So here's why grammar instruction is so frustrating with children who are native speakers. Are you starting to guess why? Because they don't need the rules to form a sentence. So you start telling them, here's a noun, here's a verb, here's an adjective, here's this part, and they're thinking, I know how to say that sentence. Sounds good to me. It doesn't stick. This is a level of abstraction that the child's brain is not yet ready for. They aren't ready for abstraction. They are still dealing in concrete principles. Oh, these are great questions. So why do we bother teaching it? Eureka! I wish I could send you a prize. I don't know. I don't know why we bother teaching it. I'm so sick of 12-year grammar programs. I'm tired of these poor, weary parents coming to me telling me that they've been working on grammar and nobody retains it. To be honest, without revealing who, I had a conversation one time with another homeschool business educator, and she told me about how her son in high school was like, what's an adjective? She's like, we've done grammar every single year. And he didn't know what an adjective was as a sophomore in high school? So here's the problem. Grammar instruction bounces off of most of our children. That's why they teach it every year in school. I like Charlotte Mason, I like Ruth Beechick, where their emphasis is on syntax and usage. These are two words that maybe you don't know. Do I need to write them down? I'm going to write them down so you can take a little screenshot. Syntax, usage. Syntax and usage have to do with how the language is actually functioning in a context. And by the way, you can still invite followers because we're getting into the nitty-gritty now of grammar, and I'm about to show you the resources that I used. So if you want your friends to come and you haven't invited them, now's a good time. All right, so syntax and usage. Those are the words, that's the language we use for word order. How do the words hang together to create communication or meaning? And we have some set ideas about that in any culture. The British and the Australians use English differently than Americans do. They have some habits that show us we're listening to a Brit talk right now, and Americans have some habits that show us we're talking to an American right now. The best way to grow your ear to become a good writer is to hang out with the kind of writing you want to emulate. That's it. That's why you read living literature. That's why we read a wide variety of authors, to get exposed to different usage, to a variety of syntaxes, to become accustomed to the beauty of language in the hands of an expert, somebody who knows what they're doing. This is the purpose of copywork and dictation. It's not just to improve spelling and handwriting and punctuation. It's also to train the ear, to be in the company of masterful English users. So, if you're looking to improve grammar, let's start with reading. Let's start with copywork. Let's start with dictation. These are methods that help your child immerse and trains the ear the way native speakers grow. So people are now like, oh my God, my mind's blown. Do we teach grammar at all? Well, here's the thing. I was once a homeschooling mother like you. It's really, really, really hard to be around public school parents and classical educators who beat this drum every year, and people who show off with their fancy sentence diagrams. And I mean that in the most loving way possible, believe me. I have 2 kids who are linguistics majors in college, and we love language. I spoke 3. I'm probably down to 2 now. I know how important and valuable grammar is. But the truth of the matter is, we do overteach it. And it doesn't stick the way we expect it to. You know how I know? Because most of the parents who ask me about grammar say that they themselves aren't good at grammar and can't remember it. So if you went through 12 years of school learning grammar and you still don't feel great about it, what does that tell us? So here's what we like to recommend in Brave Writer to balance this anxiety against reality, okay? And this is, if you listen to this next sentence, you will understand me and everything I teach. We do want to cover grammar once in a while. I believe in a deep dive. I believe in making grammar relevant to powerful writing, not just accuracy. So what we do is we recommend that you spend 1 year studying a grammar program in elementary school. And I think it should be one about parts of speech, Schoolhouse Rock, grammar songs, something very simple that just correlates parts of speech with language. We do it in our product called the Arrow. This is a printed out version. We go through and kind of show you all kinds of passages, and I give notes about grammar inside the Arrow, and we can talk about that more at the end. We correlate words with their part of speech label and help our kids gain some familiarity that there is this connection. There's this meta level, this level of abstraction that we assign to language. Okay? So that's one way that we start. Then the second thing is to teach grammar again for a year in junior high. And in junior high, I like to recommend a real grammar program. Now, everyone's different. The one that I liked was Winston Grammar. And there are lots of programs. I loved Winston Grammar. Why? Because it uses colorful cards. And it seems like kids like this sort of kinesthetic approach. Junior high, that's what I said. Winston Grammar Basic in junior high. And then 1 more year in high school. Here's what it is. 1 year in elementary school to learn the parts of speech. 1 year in junior high to analyze the full sentence, the language, the way it all hangs together, doing any grammar program. They are all equally ineffective. So just pick one. Doesn't matter which one, because none of them work that well. So get one that makes you happy, okay? And then in high school, make sure you teach a foreign language. And I promise you, if you teach a foreign language, your kids will backdate all that grammatical information to English, like that. They can't even do foreign language without understanding grammar. So you just put it all in there. You just sort of like front load this information. You re-expose them gently over and over to parts of speech. You say things like, lie or lay. I don't know which to use. Let's look it up on grammargirl.com. Oh, effect, affect. Oh, maybe we could just use this book. woe is I, and look through all the mistakes people typically make in writing and just target them one at a time. So much more fun. This book is hilarious. You will love it. Or use another grammar reference. These are the ones that we recommend in Brave Writer. I happen to know the authors. They're good friends of my mom. Nitty Gritty Grammar and More Nitty Gritty Grammar. This one is organized alphabetically. See how that works? So you just look up the grammar or the punctuation issue by alphabet, and it'll use a wonderful syndicated cartoon to help teach it. And people love these books. So we recommend these all the time. The authors are Edith Fine and Judith Josephson. Let's see if I can put that close. Take a screenshot. Edith Fine and Judith Josephson. Look, somebody said she only understood English grammar after studying ancient Greek in college, therefore verifying everything I've been saying. Very good. Yeah, these are on Amazon. And she also has her own Facebook page. They're called the Grammar Patrol. They're wonderful ladies. Yeah, my mom is good friends of theirs. Is there a difference between grammar in USA and there in UK? There probably are some differences in conventions. Yes, absolutely. And we run into them more with punctuation. Like Americans for dialogue use double quotes and Brits use single quotes. You guys use the semicolon a little differently than we do. And then there are some structural differences that are more acceptable in one place than the other. But by and large, no big deal. Yeah, somebody else has the Complete Idiot's Guide to Grammar and Style. How do you take a screenshot? On an iPhone, you click the on-off button and the home button on the front at the same time. So here it is again for those who didn't get it. Okay, nitty-gritty grammar. Take a screenshot. Ready? Click. You got it? And don't worry, we'll put these in a blog post so that you can get them. Okay? I don't know the British ones. I'm sorry. I'm American. Okay. So, do we have it? We're going to do 1 year in elementary school. We're going to do another year in junior high and a foreign language in high school. Promise me. And your kids will learn, especially if you're playful about it. So here are some things that I want to share real briefly. I bought this book at Barnes & Noble years ago, The Daily Spark. This is called about spelling and grammar. And it has these like little daily lessons that have you get to know grammar principles and issues, and they're kind of fun. Like, here's one, old dealer or old cars. Hyphens are used to make compound words, like daughter-in-law, master-at-arms, six-pack. And so then it gives you an opportunity to play with that. I'm all about short lessons, play, pointing things out. Like if you're reading along in a book with your kids and you notice a lot of semicolons, just pause and ask the question, what is this doing here? What is it achieving for the sentence? Those are the kinds of things that you want to think about when you're looking at writing. You're looking at what the punctuation actually does. You're looking at how the words sit together and generate meaning. You got it? So this is what we really want to focus on. In Brave Writer, we have a whole variety of tools that help you. And if you go to store.bravewriter.com, you will see a language arts icon. And inside, we have tools that teach copywork and dictation, taken from living literature, with my take on grammar and punctuation, all sprinkled throughout. There are free downloads that you can catch now. They'll be there forever, just to take a look. The arrow is for 3rd to 6th graders, and the boomerang is for like late junior high and high school. And then we have some other products for younger ages. But basically the idea is you take a living work of literature and you pick a passage from it, analyze it, copy it, and then use it for dictation. And over time, you are going to find that your kids' syntax and usage and ears are tuned to not only accuracy, but power in grammar. Okay, so we are now at the end. If we are using arrows, can we skip formal grammar instruction? Such a great question. I don't want to be the one to tell you to not use a grammar program, because I think at some level we all feel we need to do that. So my suggestion is You can use the arrow especially to teach parts of speech and the ways that language functions, but just do one systematic grammar program at some point in your child's life. If you would really, really like to explore grammar with supervision and fun, sign up for our Groovy Grammar Workshop. It's going to be offered again in January. The instructor is our senior teacher, Suzanne Barrett. They have more fun in that class. One of the things that they do in the class, it's a family class, so you pay one price, all your kids are enrolled. One price, all your kids. If you have 8 kids, they're all enrolled for that same price, one price. And what you do then is they play with language, they collect words, then they assign them their own categories. They try to make sense of language, creating their own rules. And then we work with them from that context. And then it builds all the way up until we get to Jabberwocky, the poem by Lewis Carroll. And they use everything they've learned about language to assign meanings and parts of speech to the nonsense words. The class culminates in writing their own sequel of a poem using their language correctly according to their syntactic choices. It's a fabulous class. So that's also another way to cover grammar. Suzanne Barrett rocks. That's right, Jen. She is amazing. Seriously. Oh, there she is. Wave to Suzanne for kids 8 to 18. She's the best. All right. Yeah, Suzanne is uplifting. She's smart. She's funny. She's one of the most successful fan fiction writers in history, I think. She's out of control, amazing. Okay, so here's the thing. I have a freebie for you. It is 5 tips for real life grammar. And I'm not going to tell you what they are because I want you to go download the PDF file, okay? But it's free. Jeanette has posted it on the blog, blog.bravewriter.com. It's there right now. The only thing that you need to do is click on the link and then click submit like you want to order it, and it will ask you for your email address. And then the PDF file will be delivered to your house, to your email address. We will then use that email in our mailings to keep you notified about online classes, products, and upcoming Periscopes. So before we sign off here, so just to show you again, blog.bravewriter.com. Okay, that's where you want to go. Jeanette created a special post just for today. And if you are a replay viewer, you are welcome to go there right now. It is still there. It's not going anywhere. Okay? So, questions. We've gone really long, but I don't know. Sometimes these topics just require it. How do you send hearts? You tap on the screen on the lower right-hand side. Tap, 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 tap. You can give me up to 500 hearts in 2 minutes. So go! Let's have a heart race. Make my heart race. Oh. Any questions about grammar, about copywork? That was terrific. Thanks, Julie. Running to ballet. Good. Have fun at ballet. Oh, I miss those days. Have fun with your kiddos. Anyone else? So they really just glean everything when immersed in language. You know, they glean a lot. I'm not saying that they glean everything. That's why I think teach it for a year. Learn a foreign language. All of this goes away if you don't teach a second language. If you don't teach a second language, use advanced grammar program in high school. If you're going to stay in English, make sure you teach an advanced grammar program. What else? 13-year-old hates narration. Yes, because it's probably fake. How about if you try big, juicy conversations? Go look that up on my blog and read about those, and maybe he will suddenly not realize he's narrating because he's having this big, juicy conversation with you. Is the quiver of arrows okay for 3rd grader? Yep, perfect. Yep. Copywork helps a ton with spelling. Of course it does. What about a child who hates copywork? Oh, I have some copywork tips. All right, so try this. Remember in the Enchanted Education and when it all goes wrong in homeschool, my other Periscopes, I talked about the context. The context is key. When I did copywork with my kids, I had my own copywork book. They wrote, I wrote. So start first by being a person who keeps a book of quotes you value with your children. Should you use a spelling program? You can, but you don't have to if you're doing copywork and dictation. But you can if you like it. I didn't. The other thing you can do for copywork, light a candle. Suggest your children only get to do copy work after 9 p.m. in a dark room with a candle using a fountain pen. Try gel pens and black paper. Try spraying the paper with perfume first and having them guess which perfume bottle before they start writing. In other words, sweeten the deal a little bit. You know, it does get tedious, just handwriting all the time. Go do copy work at Starbucks this week. Take a break from copy work and come back. Do copy work that tells a joke, is a riddle, and you don't know the answer until you've handwritten the whole riddle part. Pairing art journaling and copy work is a great idea. Quotes from a favorite book. Let them pick copy work for you and you pick copy work for them. Copy just a word a day. Copy a riddle book. These are all great suggestions. Doesn't have to be pencil on white paper, that's right. It can be markers. It can be chalk on the sidewalk. Copy work certainly can be done on the computer. It's a great way to build typing skills. You know, spelling systems are not all bad. I know a lot of people love All About Spelling. Use what works for your family. I will never tell you to not use a program that you value because this is your homeschool. This is not the Julie Bogart approved homeschool. I'm just giving you ideas. I'm just helping you understand a little of what I know from, now 30 years in the writing field, 25 years around homeschoolers. I'm just sharing. You make all the final judgments for your family. And hopefully some of the tools I suggest will be beneficial in your quest to bring your kids the kind of education that you want them to have. All right. I Periscope every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. I am now done with this one. We went long. Thank you for staying almost an hour. You guys are wonderful. And if you want to help me get the word out so I don't have to say the same story on the phone all the time, I'd really, really appreciate it. This will be posted eventually on YouTube and the blog as well. And your friends can watch it for the next 24 hours, or you can watch it again. Thank you. Oh, look at you all. Mwah. Thank you that I look great in cheetah. That's very sweet. Oh my goodness. I can't get enough of you guys either. It's been really, really fun. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's like, I'm trying to get my words out there. Yay. Yes. Oh, I'm glad your husband was with you, Emma. That's great. Good. All right, everybody. I'm going to sign off now. Go to blog.bravewriter.com and get your freebie. Bye.